welcome to the Feature Spotlight webinar for December 2025. We have a fair amount to talk about today. So without further ado, let's get into our topics for today. As you saw from the intro screen, our topic for today is Pathfinder and M365 updates. And that's I'm trying to find the right button to move to my agenda for today. And that is a large part of what we'll be talking about. So we are going to start off by looking at version 6.1.500 and talking about when that might be out. We are going to talk about these enhancements, not only for Pathfinder and M365, but there's some updates to some custom tasks and things like that we'll discuss. And then we'll get into bug fixes, as we always do, at the end of the session. So let's talk about 6.1.500. We had rather ambitiously tried to get 6.1.500 out sometime at the end of October. You may have noticed that that did not happen, and here we are in December. We were initially thinking December was going to be the month. So we did have a delay, and I think it's probably better to delay and get the features and bug fixes in that need to be in rather than releasing something half-baked. And so that's kept pushing it back. So we were shooting for a December release, but it's December and everybody wants to take time off and spend time with family during this time of the year. So that may impact our ability, or it's looking like it's going to impact our ability to get 6.1.500 out the door by the end of December. It still might happen, but there are some things that have come up that we're looking into. There are some features that we've been adding. So it may be closer to the first of the year. So sometime at the beginning of January that we finally get it out. Although we are still trying for a December release. It's just that, especially when you get into the latter half of December, a lot of personnel start dropping out because it is the holiday period. And this is one of the, this and August are the two high times for people taking time off. So we're trying to work around that. Now, you may hear me refer variously to 6.1.500 and 6.1.600, and you may see that in the documentation. They're essentially the same product and will come out at the same time. 6.1.600 is going to be a specialized version of the product that is going to go to some specific enterprise customers. There are some customizations in it that are really only relevant to those customers, and also largely customers who are not running Process Director per se, but who are running PubPro or Appruvia as their primary product. Now, both PubPro and Appruvia run on Process Director, but they are kind of consumer off-the-shelf software that we've written that is sold to specific customers. Largely for PubPro, it's in the life sciences arena and, science in general. Appruvia, it kind of straddles this life sciences thing, but there's a version of Appruvia for just generic corporate customers to have a unified approval application. But Appruvia and PubPro are special and they're different and they have some unique flavorings to them. So this 6.1.600 is kind of going to be a branch of 6.1.500. I think ultimately they're going to come back together in a future version. But if you see a big jump at some point from 6.1.5x to 6.1.6x, it's basically the same product. It's just that the .6x flavor is going to have some extra stuff in it, but probably stuff that you won't use as a regular Process Director customer. So it won't impact you all that much. There will just be, at least temporarily, some confusion in version numbers. Just know that if you're a Process Director customer, you are most likely going to be getting 6.1.500. And if you're not a Process Director customer, or if you are a Process Director customer and you also have Approvia, because those do exist, you may see 6.1.600. Do not be frightened or confused. They're basically the same thing. So we've talked about the launch window. Probably before, or at least very early in Q1. So sometime in early January, we're going to have 6.1.500 out. So think of it at some point in the next 4 or 5 weeks, that's going to be out. So that gets us up to date on what the roadmap is, at least for releases. So now let's talk about the product itself. There are 3 major areas in which we've enhanced the product. One are custom task updates. We have upgraded versions of import files from file system, PDF annotations, convert to PDF, and manipulate array data. So we have changed all 4 of those custom tasks. Now, it's important to note that of those 4 custom tasks, 3 of them have only been changed in the background. The UI has not changed, thus the documentation will not change. We have either made improvements to how they work in the background, or we have updated them to account for changes that we have made in the product that sort of affects how those old custom tasks works. And for the PDF custom tasks, there is a new version of the library that we use to create the PDF conversions. We have upgraded to that library that obviously affects how all the background stuff works and how PDF conversions and annotations work. And so while you won't see any change in the front end, you will see, well, there will be changes in the back end that you won't see, but performance and functionality will improve. Now, import files from file system is different because we have made some changes to how that custom task works, and they do affect the UI. So let's take a look at this custom task. Now, we have kind of in stages added some new features to this custom task, and they have all culminated in this. When you import files from a file system, you generally look inside a folder and you pull the contents of that folder. Originally, what we expected in a folder were simply the documents that you wanted to import. We've updated that now so that there is this little checkbox here that will enable you to recurse the folder structure. So rather than just pulling in documents that exist in a folder, we can now actually go through the subfolders of that folder, cycle through them, and pull all the documents from those folders as well. Now, when you grab all of those documents, you then have the question of what are you going to do with them? And so the Advanced tab has changed. We added the delete file in file system on successful import. And we added that a while back, where you'd go out, you'd see the documents. Let's say there were 3 Word documents in the folder. You would grab those 3 Word documents, you'd import them, and then you'd delete them. Well, now if you're going to recurse the folder structure and you're going to go through all of the subfolders and search through documents that might exist in those subfolders, it gets a bit more complicated. So when you check this box, there are some new options. First of all, you have an option to confirm it. In other words, look, when you delete these options, there's no take-sees, back-sees, there's no do-overs. So what you do is you confirm the delete, if you would like, so that you notify people that there is no rollback from what you're about to do. You're about to import these documents. I'm going to delete them from the file system. They're only going to live inside Process Director or maybe in Microsoft 365. We'll talk about that in a minute. But you have the option to confirm. You have the option to show an error if the deletion fails. Now, there are, times when you try to delete a folder and the user identity that Process Director is operating under may not have permissions to delete from that folder because permissions were set incorrectly or what have you. And so it doesn't delete the files from the file system. Generally, you're deleting files from the file system because you don't want the folder that you have to, puff up like a tick with all of these legacy files in it. So if you can't delete it, you want to let the user know, hey, we tried to delete these files, we couldn't. So we have that. Now, this third option is interesting. It's delete empty folders after import. Previously, it would delete the documents, but it would leave all of the subfolders. So we've added this property to go into the folder, pull all the documents out of it, and then once we've deleted the documents, delete all of the subfolders of that folder to leave it completely empty. Because it's, not very useful to go in and just delete the documents and then leave this big tree of subfolders inside your import folder. It's best, well, if you feel it best, you have the option now to delete them. This delete empty folders after import property only appears if recurse folder structure is checked. So if recurse folder structure is not checked, then we're not going to go through all those subfolders. Thus, we are not going to grab all of the documents out of them, and thus we don't have to delete the folders either. So that property disappears when recurse folder structure is unchecked. Otherwise, for the normal deletion, if you're going to delete the files, you still have the confirm and the show error properties that are optionally allow you to provide that notification to the end users. So that's the custom task. Now let's talk about Microsoft 365 and Pathfinder. Some customers who have the collaborative document authoring feature did not want to use the OnlyOffice service to edit their documents. Especially if you're in a highly regulated industry, you might want to have tighter control over those documents and keep them inside the organization. The only way to do that is to run it through your Microsoft 365 system, which means all of those documents go into your Azure installation. They get stored into, well, technically it's SharePoint, but essentially they get stored in your Office implementation, which is called Microsoft 365 now for some reason, or M365 for short. All of the documents get stored there. That means they're inside your network. They're inside your personal cloud on Azure, and you're not sending them to the OnlyOffice service temporarily for editing and then shipping them back to Process Director. It is a much more secure system. It is also enormously inconvenient from the user's point of view because of Microsoft's requirements for how people log in. And if you have external users who don't have an account on your network, then they have to set up multi-factor authentication and they've got to use the Microsoft Authenticator app every time they want to log in. There's some extra stuff to it, but it has the advantage of keeping everything inside your organization. Now, in order to make that work, we have to be able to take existing documents, because it's not like everybody is going to do this de novo. People who have been using the OnlyOffice service might want to switch to M365 for their documents. So we have to provide a way for them to do that. And we have in Process Director. So in settings, and it's either in troubleshooting, it is in troubleshooting. So in the IT admin area, in your troubleshooting section, there is a new page called Microsoft 365 Migration. The way this works is that it will take the appropriate documents out of your system and we'll migrate them all to your Microsoft 365 installation. Now, you have to have your configuration set up for M365. We covered that, I think, a month or two ago in the Feature Spotlight webinar. So you have to have M365 set up. Once that is set up, then if you have a bunch of existing documents that you want to transfer over to M365, you can do that from here. Now, let me be clear that in order to find these documents and transfer them over to M365, you will have to go through your system, go through all of your forms, and you will have to mark all of the document attachment controls to use M365. So as an example, let's go back to our form here and we'll pop this open. And as soon as we do, we will drop in an attachments, and I'm just going to do an attach objects control. And right down here on the button tab of the properties for the attach objects control, there is a new property called Enable Microsoft 365 CDA. If you do not have CDA, you're not going to see this property. So only people with collaborative document authoring have it. You're going to need to go in, find all of the form definitions where you want to place these documents in Microsoft 365, and you're going to have to turn on that checkbox. And indeed, if we go to attachments and show attached objects, I don't think we have to worry about it on the show object, but I did want to be sure, but I'm pretty sure that it is not. That just shows us our attachments. And so we're fine there. But on our attach objects, you're definitely going to have to go and check that Enable Microsoft 365 CDA, because whenever you run the M365 migration, what it's going to do is it's going to look on your local system, go through all of those objects. Well, you have two methods. First, you have start migration. Notice you can go from local to Microsoft 365 and from 365 to local, but let's put a pin in that because that's going to be a little more confusing and it's not going to work exactly the way that you think it will work. But your local to M365, this is primarily what we would expect you to do. You have two options. You can just click Start Migration. And if you do, what it's going to do is it's going to look through your entire system, find every form definition with an attachment control that is marked to enable M365. Then it's going to look up all of the documents that are attached, whether it's to the form or to the process, and it is going to transfer those documents from inside Process Director and move them all over into Microsoft 365. This may take a while, and no user can access the system while you're running the migration. You can, however, also do a manual migration. And in that case, you get a spot here to put in one object ID or more than one object ID separated by commas. So in this case, what we're talking about are the form definition IDs. You can put in one or more IDs. If you put in more than one, it's a comma separated list. You just separate them by comma, and it will only transfer over the documents, again, that have been marked to enable Microsoft 365. And it will transfer just those documents over to the new system or into your M365 system. Technically, you can copy documents back, but this is not a transfer. Once those documents get to Microsoft 365, they're there permanently. You cannot migrate back. Well, you kind of can. You can grab the documents, you can copy them, you can pull them back onto your system, and then you can, uncheck the enable M365 and you can go back and use the OnlyOffice service. You don't have to use M365. It's just an option for you. But all of those documents remain inside M365, and the only way to get rid of them is for one of your admins for your M365 system to go in and manually delete those documents. Also, you have a little checkbox here where you can run this via test mode. So it'll do everything but actually transfer the documents. Again, it's going to lock your system. No user will be able to access it while that test mode migration is running. So we do recommend that if you're going to do any of the M365 migrations, that you do so during off-duty hours. That brings us to Pathfinder. We've done two things in Pathfinder. One, less important, we're going to log Pathfinder usage. And it will only show up in the logs if you set logging to level 1. And then you can see the date a Pathfinder request was made and how large a request it was and sort of general metrics about just the data itself, not the specifics of the request, but just how much impact the request had on the system and when it was made. The other thing, though, that we have done is added a RAG management page. So in configuration, there is a new page called RAG Management. Let me explain what Pathfinder is real quick. Pathfinder is an AI system. It's a large language model. We're building it into Process Director. For a couple of reasons. Number one, there's always been a firewall between Process Director and its documentation. If you open up an object, there are generally the little help icons, and if you click on it, it'll open up the relevant documentation topic for it. But you can't ask questions about Process Director from inside Process Director. Pathfinder enables you to do that. So, for example, for PubPro customers, which is really sort of the genesis of where this came from, they want to be able to ask questions about how to use PubPro. So we have a documentation set that we load up into Pathfinder, and there is a little chatbot icon that shows up here. If you click on it, it opens the Pathfinder chatbot, and you can ask questions just like the chatbot in our documentation or on the support site or on the community site. Works the same way, looks at the documentation, returns answers. So if you're a PubPro customer, you'll get PubPro documentation. If you're a Process Director customer, you'll get Process Director documentation, all of which is well and good if all you want to do is ask questions about the platform Process Director itself. But what if you have really complex custom applications, which I know several of our customers do, super complex applications, and they need to have some sort of guidance for their users in how to use their custom applications. And indeed, you might want to provide guidance to your users on how to use those custom applications that you have on your system. Well, the only way to do that is to get the AI trained on that documentation. So when you ask it questions about that particular application, it can provide answers. So that's what the RAG data is. RAG is a synonym for something enhanced generation, or I forget what the acronym is, which is odd because I just wrote the documentation on this page yesterday. But what the RAG data is are the additional information that you want to train the AI on. And so you can just click Sync RAG Data, and it will sync to Pathfinder. But the first thing you have to do is add that data. So if we go to, let's go Documents, Work. Here's some release notes, right? So we'll grab these three release notes documents, and we'll open them up. And it shows them to me in a data list control. It's paginated for 10 records per page. And so I can find all of the custom documentation that I need, upload it into the system. And once I do, I can click the Sync RAG Data button. And what it will do is it'll take all of the data that you have uploaded, and it will transfer it over to the Azure AI Studio for training on what Microsoft calls it Copilot, I guess. And so it just trains the AI on the documentation. The files have been sent to RAG storage. The AI is going to, automatically train on that documentation. And now you'll have your custom documentation that whenever you go to Pathfinder, you can ask questions about that documentation. You can delete the documentation as well. It says it can't be undone, which means that once it's deleted, it will also get deleted off of Azure AI Studio, which means it will no longer be available for responses from the Pathfinder system. But as long as you have that data in there, you can go into Pathfinder and you can ask questions about it and receive the appropriate response. Some final enhancements. We've added some general security enhancements, as is my practice. I will not be specific about what any of those security enhancements are, but we always are doing testing and always monitoring the wider world for security bulletins and implementing those fixes or updates to security as necessary. So we've done a little bit of that. There's also a problem that we fixed, or at least we think we fixed it, that has come up to bite us a couple of times, which is the problem of a user opening a form instance and then going and doing something else, coming back, opening up a second copy of that same form instance, making some changes, closing it, and then at some point later saying, oh, I've got this hidden window in the form instance. Oh, wait, this information is all wrong. I thought I had change that, or I see this information, I'm pretty sure I changed that, and instead of hitting cancel, they hit OK, and they overwrite the changes they made to copy to when they had it open. It causes problems. So we've now put in a locking system so that whenever you open a copy of a form instance, you got to either keep that copy open, close it, because you can't open a second copy of it. We're trying to avoid people having 2 or 3 copies of the same form instance open and then constantly overwriting their data. So we're going to set it up so that once you have that one copy open, that's your good copy. That's the only copy that you can have open at that one time. So I think that's a neat little feature. There's nothing to demonstrate, but it is a neat one. Some bug fixes. So there's a problem with if you had a form field that was an input box that also used the text editor, for some reason you were unable to paste from Word into that text editor. We fixed that. There are a variety of minor display issues, CSS fixes, things like that we implemented to make things render much cleaner. Also, several of our higher ed customers are facing a mandate in March of 2026 to be fully WCAG level AA compliant. Now, there are a lot of controls, especially a lot of form controls in Process Director. And all of our higher ed customers are going through and checking every single control and running accessibility reports. And occasionally they find things wrong. For example, on the radio button list, works perfectly well until you click the show radio buttons as blocks. And then some of the accessibility features don't work whenever you have that property checked. So there's these minor little issues that we are constantly working on and fixing, and some of our higher ed partners are working with us on that to go through everything to ensure that we can meet that. I believe it's a March 6th, 2026 deadline to ensure that all of their forms are fully screen reader capable and accessible. So that's ongoing work, and that work will be ongoing for the next 3.5 months. We implemented lazy loading in the content list, which is to say, if you have more than 50,000 objects in your content list, we're not going to load them all in at the same time. That used to be what we did, but some of you have like 100,000 objects in your system. That was starting to take up too much memory. So what we've implemented is something called lazy loading. We're going to show you things in the content list one level at a time. So I'm going to see what's in my root folder. And then when I click a subfolder, I'm only going to show you the contents of that folder. Then when I click a subfolder, I'll show you the contents of that folder. So we're delivering that on demand to the browser rather than trying to, shove 200,000 content list objects into the content list all at the same time. This has caused some issues with search and how search works, because now I don't have the entire content list. Now, if you have a smaller content list, which is to say less than 50,000 objects in your content list, you're not really going to notice any difference. It's not really going to affect you. But if you do have those large content lists, we've had to go through and change the way navigation works so that you don't miss items in the content list, and especially the way searches work, because some of the searches were returning inconsistent items. Some issues with arrays, or actually an issue with arrays. If you have conditions that are applied by row, they weren't always being accepted and they were being applied to the column as a whole. So all of the array fields might be disabled or made invisible rather than just the fields on a specific row. So we corrected that. And the data list, again, when you mark the field as visible or not, or unmarked it as visible, sometimes the data list was not respecting that property setting, and it would just make all of your fields visible in visible the distance issues. And with that is the entire agenda for the day. So we are done. Thanks for joining me again today. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. I will look forward to talking with you again next month after the new year. And for those of you who do participate in our training webinar, we have one more webinar this month. Oh no. I don't know whether Zoom caught all that or not, but it looks like we're still in the webinar. My Zoom screen just disappeared and I kind of freaked out a little bit. So anyway, last training webinar of the year is on Thursday. After that, it's holiday time. We'll see you all next year. Until then, so long.